Hi, everyone. Going to give it a few minutes to allow people to join before we go ahead and get started. Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started. So, hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. I will be the host. I'm Dylan Roberts. I'm a solutions architect here at Decisions on the professional services team. So, just a couple of announcements before we start diving into some things. Uh, Most of you that have joined before have seen this, just some basic information on the Decisions end of life support. Um, Version 8 is out. We have the latest releases out there, so you can always find them at our releases site. And if you have any questions, you can contact your CSM and work with them for upgrades or any more details about the different versions. One more announcement is our next product roadmap meeting will be on December 7th. This is a great time to get some insight into some upcoming features into Decisions, as well as to ask questions and maybe provide some feedback on what you would like to see within the platform coming up. So with that being said, let's dive into a couple of things. So there were two pre-submitted questions today, and I'll go ahead and put them into the chat. Let me change my screen as well. Okay. Okay, I will paste the questions into the chat. So we will go over the first one, which is how do you use the log and exponential expressions in decisions, or how can you use them in decisions? So there's a couple ways we could set this up. So let me go into this flow. Okay, so we have some steps that let you run your expressions. This step I have set up right now, but I'll show you in the toolbox. If you search expression, there's a couple different ones. The one I will be going over is evaluate expression. So this lets you put into place really any expression you want. You can do A, just a simple one of let's do A plus B. It'll give you your input variables. For this specific example, if we want to find the log of a number, you can do log, let me see, we could do, let's do the log of x with base 10. Let me see, I think, so it also is case sensitive. So since I put capital log, it didn't go through. But now what we could see is that this will run the expression of log x to the base of 10. So what that looks like here, and please forgive me if my math is not accurate. It has been a while since I've looked at these types of expressions. But in this example, I'm just doing log of 3 with base 10. And our output here is a decimal of 0.477. So that would be one way you can do it, get the log. With a specified base, you can also do, if you just want log with base 10, which I think is default, let's see, you could do log of 10 and then just your number. So let's do x again, and they will give us the same expression or the same output since I chose log base 10 before. So yep, so log of 10 would give you your natural log. So that would be the way you could do that. Took me a little bit to figure that out, but it would be log 10 and then your number. And then for the other example of the exponential, it would just be exp of x, of whatever number you want. So in this case, um, you can do exponential of 2, and we could see it's 7.389. So this is one way to do it. This way, what I will tell you is that it's kind of manual setup here, manual configuration. Let's see, can we combine these two steps in one expression? That is a good question. We could see, do you have an example of what that equation would be? I could try to put them both in the same, see what happens. Let's see if, I don't know if we would do, let me just see if I was able to do log base 10 plus expression of y. So yeah, that seems to go. You could put both into the same thing. Let's see. Okay, and I'll take your example from the chat and let's see what we get here. Let me copy this. Let me paste it here. Yeah, so it seems that it would take, let me see if I just set e to 10. I don't know if you have any values you'd want to put into here for test, and e to verify. Let's see, 0.03. Not sure if this would run or not. E is the natural log. Okay, E is natural log. Let me see, where is E? I think natural log is 10. Let's run this. So it does give us a number. I'm not sure if the math is accurate here. But it does seem that yes, with dynamic expressions, you can kind of put multiple expressions into one, and run them and kind of configure them the way that you would need to, and set different variables through it. There is another way that I would like to show you though. So this is in a flow using this step. I'm going to save this just to save it. But if we go to our designer studio, and we go to create a rule. Under here, you typically would do truth tables, statement rules, matrix tables. But something not as commonly used is this expression option. And let's say you come up with your equation that you are going to be consistently using throughout your project. You wouldn't want to necessarily have multiple instances of that dynamic expression step, because then if you need to change one, you need to remember where you've placed them everywhere and change those as well. But by creating an expression, it'll allow you to reuse it basically as a step. It'll show up as a new step in the toolbox. So with that example that we just put together, I'll just say, you can give it a name. I'll just say equation 1. We will be able to provide the equation we're looking for it. And then you can give it a step category. So this, I'm just going to say math steps. One thing I liked about here, which actually helped me get to the point of seeing which functions we could use, is it shows a list of functions that the dynamic expressions, which you could use within the expression step. So this is also a helpful reference. So if we save this, it's called equation 1. I set the category to be math steps. If we go into here, let me refresh so I could reload the toolbox. What we'll see is under, I think it's integration and then expressions, you'll have your category. So I named it math steps. So Under here, I'll see I had a simple addition step that I made earlier, which is just a plus b. But you can also now have your equation one, which will have the same inputs as this, where you have e and test. And here you'll see you have e and test too. We could do 10 we did for e, 0.03 for tests. Let's just run one after the other. This gets us the 0.373. And then the 0.373 as well. So this would be, if you're going to use, I would recommend using this expression step builder if you're going to reuse your expressions in other workflows. And honestly, I think it would be valuable for maintenance. If you ever need to do a change, you don't necessarily need to go into your workflow to make that change to your equation. You'd be able to do it through outside the designer within your flows and rules. So hopefully that helped with that question. No problem. Okay, so then let's go on to the next question. I'll post it in the chat. This one's a little bit tougher. So the get account manager step is throwing a user not authorized to get account by ID error no matter what the user context is set on the step. Is there another way to allow this step to run in flows by non-admin users? Short answer as of right now is I have not found another way to use this step. I have reached out to our dev team and we're getting a ticket submitted for it. So with 8.16, we have made some changes to the account steps to be more secure. And I think this one just happens to still not work like the others. So it, like in this example, these are both, as you know, from the account service toolbox. Account by email, you can set as context type of system, which will allow you to run it as a non-admin user. And if you were to do the same as get account manager, it fails right now. And this is a non-admin user. I could just run to show it. This step executed fine, set as system. I was able to replicate your error of getting the account manager throwing that exception. So once the DT gets created and submitted, I will email you out the DT number to track. I didn't really want to leave you empty handed though. This is going to sound like a crazy workaround solution, but there are ways you can still get your a manager for a user if needed. The way that I have kind of dug around and found is really generating a report that will do it for you. So just for some context on that, I've been diving into how all of the account relations work. So it starts out, you have your entity account object. Your relation will be stored on the account relation table. So this table stores who is the related email, the from email basically, and who it does it relate to. And then to figure out that it's a manager relation, you can join into the relation info table, which would show you that this is a manager relation. Rather than doing a bunch of queries and different steps, I found a way we could do it with a report by creating a couple of different table relations. So I'd like to walk you through that. Just if it's a blocker right now, it is a way. It's not the best way to do it, but until we can get a fix out there for it, this is one way to approach it. So what I did here is I created a couple of different table relations. Started with the base table of the account relation table because this stores the to and from account. So I had to do two relationships for that. One to get basically the from account, I tie it into the entity account. To get that email address, you may just need account ID and you could just use the account relation table. That would be fine for that. But I kind of took it a step further in case you needed to start working with emails and using it that way. So I joined the account relation by account ID to the entity account ID. This is going to give me the email for basically the from account. Next relation was to get the to account. So it's the same relationship of account relation. This time I'm using the to account ID field, um, joining it to the entity account based on account ID. Third join I did was to take it another step and to join to the relation info table. So on your account relation table, you'll have a relation info ID. And then that will join into your relation info. What this table will give you is what type of relation it is. So, for example, this is the table here. You'll be able to see entity name is manager, representing that this is a manager relation. So I took that one just to be more secure. On the account relation table, you technically are able to see in the entity name that it is a manager relation. Um, don't really like relying on contains all the time to get that information out of there. So I think it's a safer play to relate to the relation info table. But what that looks like now is here on this report. Started with the account relation table, put my relationship as a just as an inner join to the first table, which is account relation to relation info. Reason I did that was to get account relation info entity name equals manager as a filter to secure or to make sure that I'm just filtering by that, just the manager's account. And then on this, I didn't put all of them, but I put the account relation to get the to account uh, email address. And in this case, I just renamed it to be manager email, but the outcome I'm passing of this report would be the account relation to account email address. Also put another filter on this report to be account ID equals, and this would be the account ID from the account relation. So you can get the from account. This is where you could do your filter to say, if I'm Dylan at decisions.com, my account ID would be passed into here to get my manager if I have one. So then with this report, I did it here just because it's a little easier to maintain. You could do it technically with a query. You could do it with multiple fetch steps. I just find it a little bit easier to do it in the report. And then to access that data, I would use a run report step. Right now, let me go show what that looks like. So it would have been good for me to save a report, but since I set the account ID equals as a runtime field, I'm able to pass that in as a filter here. Right now, output is just data rows. If I wanted to make it a little more clean on the report, you could set it to output a type and call it maybe manager name or something, and that way you could just get that field you're looking for. But here, if I debug this, I have a test account. Let me see if I have that account ID on me. Here we go. See if this gets it. Yep. So I made a test account earlier, and I could show that in security if you want. But it was called like test 1 2 3 4 or something. I set a manager of my email address, Dylan at Decisions. So that was me using the test accounts account ID to get the manager of who I am. So I know that seems like a big workaround. It is a little bit of a hassle, but as soon as that DT gets submitted, I will get that ticket over to you for tracking purposes. Yep. Yeah, no problem, Sin. So then, yeah, let's go back and look at the log function and the default base. Okay, so there's two ways to do it. Let's go back to that expression steps. Of course, I didn't close it. Okay. So the first one would be, let me just drag out a new step here. So I think to get the default base, if you just do log, you have to define a base. So this would be me like base 3, 4, 5, something. But if you want just natural log, I believe it's log 10. and then it would be your variable that way. Yeah, no problem. Is there any other questions you guys would like to go over? If not, we still have some time left on here. I can talk through a couple different things that have come up over the last few weeks with the PS. You could give a couple of examples. We could try to make it go till 12:30 today. If you have any questions, you guys could feel free to put them in the chat. What I would like to show is something that isn't as commonly used with page designing. And it's something I'm trying to push a lot that we do on the professional services team. It's pretty performant, but it's with simple tiles. So simple tiles is just a way to display different boxes on a page with which could do numerous things. So typically, like a lot in our demos, you'll see a page have maybe a report, and there's 4 or 5 different tiles on there, and they're using a different tile format. Um, to get those tiles at the top, you got to think each one of them are running a workflow behind the scenes to populate the data in it. So every time a user hits a page, let's say, for example, you have 4 tiles in a report, you have to render the report, and then 4 workflows have to kick off before the user can actually see the data. You try to scale that out with X number of users, there could be a performance hit there. So there is a component called simple tiles. What this looks like is, let me go into my example page, if I could remember where I put it. Oh goodness, here we go. And I will put a simple tiles component out here. So you could do one simple tile, or you can do an array of simple tiles. I prefer the array because it's a little more usable. If you needed to, you could put one in there, or you could do many. So let me expand this across the top. So with simple tiles, you have to pick or create a workflow to populate it. In this case, I'm going to create a new, I'm just going to say show for random names. So it gives you a blank workflow with a predefined output of tiled data. This is the type you'll use to populate to actually display the different tiles you'd want to build. So now you can put all of the logic you would want to build out the different tiles to show. So if you build out logic that just shows 3 tiles, 4 tiles, 5, it would all be in here. What this could be useful for is, let's say you have a data type and you want to display just a simple tile that maybe shows the name of them, and you have a filter of like 3. You could do a fetch entity step and put like a for each loop then and say, for each entity that I fetched, let me build a tile to display so it's dynamic. If the user adds another record, now 4 tiles will display off. You're kind of not limited to that. So for this example, I'm just going to display 4 random names. I'm just going to put a for loop into here, and I'm just going to set it to 4 real quick. 4 iterations here. Map the done to here. One thing I like to do in these flows is use a create data step to initialize my list. So initialized data list. So I'll just call this list tile data. And then the type would be, this is where it gets a little tricky. Sometimes you got to remember what the type is. The way I tell is by going here to the output in its decisions framework, design, flow, core steps tile, just so I can make sure I choose the correct one. If I type in tile data, you'll see that there's 2 options. So that's why I wanted to confirm with which one I needed. And it's this. I'm going to say this is a list. Right now, just an empty list to initialize it. So now what I'm going to do is put another create data step in here, and I'm actually going to now build my item, build my tile. So let me just say create tile data. Going to call this tile, type tile data again. Make sure it's the right one. Just going to set up the bare bones of this, add, let me see, add item to list. To add my new tile to my original list of tile data, and I'm going to change value of tile data here. Okay, one question came up. Does evaluate expression have in? Let's take a look. That is easy to find. If I edit this expression, doesn't look to be it, but let's give it a try. Let me see. Let me check real quick. So what is that expression exactly? Do you have a case? It is the log E. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Let's see. Log of E. Sorry for not knowing these answers off the top of my head. I haven't used math expressions in a while here. So what is the in expression exactly? In natural log. Okay. I'm sorry. Um, I think natural log. Let me see. Would that just be the log 10? I don't know if that would be it in this case. Okay, I don't know if we have natural log then. Um, gotcha. Let's see, natural log. I don't, yeah, don't know if we have that. Searching now just to confirm. Give me a second. Natural log. Yeah, I'm not really seeing natural log with base E. Not to say that it's not here, I just don't know what that would be. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing anything for it. Not off the top of my head. The two that I've just been able to find is if you do log base 10 with the variable, or if you do log with variable and then you choose your base. I don't see anything though, just for log, for natural log. You might be able to choose natural log for the base. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, no, what if I did? Let me just create a new step real quick to see if that would allow me to or not. Let's just try log 10 of natural log. Oh, wait, no, hold on. No, that didn't. I don't know. Thought that would let me choose natural log as the base, but it looks to take that as another parameter. Um, we could try E. I think it might treat E as another parameter here. I think that's the problem. It's looking as E as a parameter. We could try that. Let's try math.e. No, it doesn't seem to like that one either. I see where you're going with it though. It doesn't seem to like that though. So the way I've been able to see if it's going to actually work or not is like when you see how we have inputs here. So this is an expression it can run, but when we do math.e, it takes away the inputs. That's how I could tell it's not a valid expression. Um, I don't want to say that we could just throw in the natural log number because I see it's I think like 2.718, very long number. That might not be the best to do it. I don't think we have something for natural log under our numbers steps. Um, evaluate, expand by exponent, create not a number, absolute. Yeah, I'm just not seeing it in here. Let me see if I did. What if I did what you said, log E? No, that doesn't seem. Yeah, I think you might want to open a ticket to get the natural log. I'm not seeming to make much progress with this. I'm sorry about that. Um, there might be another way that I just am not sure of, but yeah, I'm not seeing it. Okay. Also, though, worse comes to worse, if we don't in support, we'll probably walk you through this. We do have a Python module where we can run Python scripts. So if we aren't able to, which there probably is a way that I'm just not exactly sure of, um, we could do it in decisions. But if not, what a Python script would look like is once it's set up, is basically just another step you run in decisions. If that's the route that we need to go to get that value, that would be like under integration um, somewhere. If I remember where the Python stuff is, I think you have to install the module first, and then you'll see those steps pop up. Yeah, I think I just don't have the module installed right now, but that might be a route that we can go. Okay, so let's go wrap up this example here. So I'm gonna back to this tile example. Tile as a list. Um, what I'm doing here is just initializing my tile list. I'm looping 4 times. I'm creating my tile, and then I'm going to pass out my tile data. What you can do now is in your create tile data step, this is where you really configure everything you want to display. I'm going to, in this case, build data on it. There's a lot of settings you'll see here, which allow you to configure what this tile looks like. Anything from background color to border color to the corner radius. So there's really a lot of configuration here. So what I'm going to do is just set a generic, just a background color. I want everything to be this case. I want it to be like this light green. I want my border. Let's set the border as black. Let's set the border width to be 2. Um, and what that's going to do now is just color the background for us. So if I were to save this, go out to my page, I would like to set this as chromeless because I don't want to see the title bar. And then open up my example page. Be able to see right now, we have 4 tiles this way. So there's also a setting now on your page designer to say which way do you want to display this tile. You can display it vertically, or if you go under view, you could say this is a horizontal, which will now change the way the tiles look. Also here, what I like to do is separate the tiles so there's some space between them. So now just by doing that, you can see now we have our 4 tiles separated just from this one workflow. So let's go build upon this now. So now we got our 4 tiles. We have our workflow set. Let's now add some data into it. So this was to display random names. Let's do a generate name step. So in case you don't know, this comes in very handy when trying to create test data and you're running out of creative ideas. We do have a step that allows you to just generate a random name. In this case, I'll just call this output random name. On my tile data, I'm now going to say, I want to build a line, which will be array item 1. I want to build data on this, and the text I want to say is random name. This is what I now want to show here. Okay, save this. We refresh this now. We now have 4 random names on this tile, which is exactly what we want. The reason I really do like simple tiles, though, is let's say if I was to build that out manually with a single tile, with some of our other tile components, I would have had to build a workflow for each one of those items to show something. This is all just in one workflow. So let's say now I want to show 6 tiles, 6 random names. I just have to change the logic in that tiles flow to do that for me. So I find it really easy. So let's say you want to do some aggregation of data. Let's say you want tile 1 to show you in this. Let's say we have a claims system. You could do tile 1 show claims in the last 30 days, tile 2 claims in the last 60 days, tile 3 claims in the last 90 days. All in this one workflow, you can build that logic out to get those 3 tiles and populate it at runtime. Rather than separating those into 3 different tiles, you can just go ahead and do that all in one go, which I really think helps with performance for one, but it keeps it simple so you know if you need to make changes, you have one place to go ahead and do it. So that's just really simple. One thing I do want to also point out with tiles is that you could take it one step further and do some pretty cool things. One, you can set flows to run when you click on the tile. Each tile component has a setting here of flow ID. So you could say each of these 4 different tiles, if you click on one, like let's say in that example of 30, 60, 90 days, if you click on 30 days, run a flow that shows me a data grid of all items from the last 30 days. If you click on 60, throw that flow ID could show you everything from the last 60 days. Flow ID 3 could show you everything from the last 90 days. So each tile could have its own flow that you would like to run just by setting the flow ID here. Another thing is, let's say you have other components on your page listening to it. You could set a data bus name and value. So a data bus name is basically translates to a URL parameter. So I'm just going to put my URL parameter is random name. And then my value is going to be the actual random name. So by saving this, refreshing, we'll see right now there's nothing up here, but if you start clicking on it, now we have our random names populating as a URL parameter. Key thing to that is now you can have other components on your dashboard listening to that data bus value. So let's say you had a form tile, maybe some reports that you'd want to filter. You'd say maybe you had a report under here of all claims, and let's say this is a 6 employees that you have. You could say, okay, for Braxton Adams, you click on this, show me all claims for Braxton Adams that he's working. There's a lot of flexibility you could do with simple tiles. And this wasn't really much styling I put into here. There's a lot you can do with those settings and as well as with CSS. So I just wanted to put that out there, show kind of a quick example of it. It's something I'm trying to push for more from the professional services team that we use going forward, just because it is a fairly performant option and something to consider when designing pages. Okay, so I know that I went through that. Before we end today, is there any more questions from anyone? Just give it a minute to see. If not, I think we can go ahead and end it here. So thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a great, very happy holidays. Bye, everyone.